Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to open. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Agelis, Dr. Aruna Detassen,
Here.
Mr. Kim, Mr. Cass,
Here.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Capello, Mr. Kim.
Here. There is no need for executive session, so let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, it looks like there's no presentations today, nor will there be any presentation in December. So we'll go ahead with the superintendent comments. Dr. Forte?
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to let everybody know we tested our emergency notification system for winter. We usually do that every year right around now. Winter sports begin soon. The practice is already starting. The Anxious Generation book study. Are we going to talk about that during committees, Dr. Moore?
We could, or it's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, we can bring it up during the committee. That's fine. November 20th, the Harlem Wizards game with Riverview and Lakeview staff at Morris Knolls. If you're around and you want to go. Riverview, November 22nd, the World Dance performance at 1:45 in the all-purpose room. If you want to go to that, shoot me an email and I'll let the principal know. I've been in touch with Mrs. Astorino. I set up a Denville email for her, just like I did for all of you guys when you were hired. She only will get emails from me though, just to start the process of giving her information, business information through her Denville email. And we are going to work on a date in December to meet and go over a few items. And that's it for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. Assistant Superintendent comments. Dr. Cullis?
Yes, tomorrow night, Tuesday, November 19th, we have our parent presentation of Aaron's Law Body Safety. That's at 7 o'clock. A messenger went out again today with the link. So it's a virtual presentation. So hopefully everyone can attend. We did have a winner of the Mind Speak essay competition, which is a youth mental wellness fair. And we had a second place winner. So there was about 82 entries from 26 districts. And our winner was Amelie Shea. So congratulations to her. This concludes the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Business Administrator comments. Ms. Gorowski.
No comments.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more that I forgot. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead,
I
Dr.
sent all of you the links for the calendars. If you want to, you can subscribe to all those calendars. It'll audit all the information. Remember, we were talking about how you could find out more. If you subscribe to those calendars, you'll get them. Now, there's 4 because there's one for each school, and then there was one district one. If you want to subscribe to some of them or all of them, you'll get alerts on your email if you sign up for those different Google calendars. That's it.
Great, thank you. Okay, it is 10:34 p.m. We'll go ahead and open up for public comments. I'm sorry, 7:34. What did I say, 8:34? I said 10. Forgive me, I'm a little tired. So 7:34. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comments. Seeing no one in the chambers and no one online, we'll go ahead and, oh, there is someone online. Okay, excuse me. Okay, if you are online and you would like to ask the board a question, feel free to type in your name, your address, and you should be able to unmute yourself and you can ask a question. We'll give it another 30 seconds.
The process is for them to raise their hand.
And you can raise your hand.
They don't have the ability to put any comments in. No one's raising their hand.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comments at 7:34 PM. And old business action to be taken. Mr. Anderson, could you take us through that section, please?
Sure. If there are no objections under item 3, old business, I'd like to move A, B, and C as a block, including education reports, minutes from the October 7th and October 28th meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Dr. Aruna Jatasan, if you can take us through personnel and new business, please?
Absolutely. If there is no objection, I'd like to move the following items under the personnel. And item number A1 is new hires, resignations, retirements, leaves, extra pay, salary, and adjustments. There are items A through L in the main document, and there is an addendum M through R that is on the A1 block. And item number 2 is a resolution a motion that we put forth in the October 28th meeting that'll be rescinded. And you see in the above block A1, the item G is somewhat similar, rescinding the previous motion because that person will not be working on that particular item. Item number 3 would be Family Medical Leave Act and Family Leave Acts for employees. And item number 4 is another FMLA approval. Item number 5 is new hires. The sub items A through F. And then in the addendum, you have G and H.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just I'm noticing 3 teacher resignations effective in January. One, I'm wondering if we're prepared for those. And I thought we're supposed to get 6 months notice or something like that. Isn't that like the typical requirement to hold on to your certification or something like that?
They have to give 60 days notice. But I have this on the executive agenda to discuss all of them, so you guys have an idea of why and all the other background.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Segelis,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Dr. Moore, can you take us through IMP, please?
Sure. So I'd like to move the following resolutions under instruction and program. Under number 1, workshops and expenses, we have an NJAHPERD convention and a critical role virtual retroactively approved. And item number 2 is the nursing services plan. And item number 3 is the attached list of field trips for 24-25.
Dr. Moore, could you also include the addendum, please?
I sure can. And under the addendum, we have item number 4, which is to approve the Rockaway Borough staff to provide a parent night for MML families using Title III funding, not to exceed 3 hours, each at the rate of $38.91.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just a quick question on the item number 4 on the addendum. What is MLL?
A multi-language learner. So what used to be ESL turned into ELL, and now it's MLL. So it's multi-language learner.
Got it. Got to keep up with my alphabet soup. So just I guess a follow-up question to that. So we are holding the Rockaway Borough Title III funds?
We are now, we are holding 12 districts. I think it's 12 districts. We are now the host for the Title III Consortium. And so we are hosting that, and we have all the money in our accounts, and it has to go through us, because if a school district receives less than 10,000 from Title III, they have to join a consortium. We are just about the only consortium in North Jersey, so the other districts ended theirs, and now they joined ours. So
How
it's a
exciting.
little more work for us, but I'm really excited. I wanted to take this on because I really wanted to get our money. And we've had to be in other districts' consortiums, and we never get it. I put in all the requests, I never get. They just don't follow the procedures. And so I set it up just kind of to model, like, it's not that difficult. Like, I made Google Forms, just fill out the form, we approve it, then we give them the, pay the money. But this allows us to get our money, and then whatever they don't spend, then it goes into our account. Like,
So so when we previously weren't getting the money, it was going to the host district theoretically, because we weren't using it, even though we were asking for it?
yes, but I know that the state is involved with that now at this point. So that is
Okay.
correct. We did not get it. And so it was supposed to roll over to us. It didn't quite. So
It was not
Okay.
being managed correctly.
You're right.
Dr.
So-
Thank you
Cullis
to-
took it upon
DOE is
herself.
now involved. So we took it
Thank
on.
you, Dr. Cullis. Thank you, Mrs. Gorowski, because I know that I'm used to seeing that for non-public schools, but I'm not used to seeing it for public schools. So thank you for taking that on, both of you.
Yeah, I want to echo the thank you as well, because that's, thank you.
And Dr. Cullis is the driver behind this. She has done a lot of work reaching out to all those other districts and putting it together with a Google Doc and making it so simple for them to spend their monies, where they just have to submit that claim and we put the purchase order through. Just Dr. Cullis, baby.
Thank you. I know that now I've given the business office more work, so that's not probably great either, but it'll be good. I mean, the kids need to get their funding, right? These are kids that need their funding, so.
Yeah, it's
I
all
will
for
do
the
it.
children. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Mrs. Zadelis, can you take us through policy revisions, please?
Sure. I move to approve the following resolutions under policy revisions. These are policies that we are moving for adoption tonight. The evaluation of superintendent, unsafe school choice option, educational program evaluation, school lunch program, biosecurity plan, which is new, recruitment by special interest groups, which is new, health service personnel, conduct of board meeting, board committees, and organization meeting, all available on your computers.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Mr. Anderson, if you can walk us through finance, please.
Sure. If there are no objections, I'd like to move under D, finance, items number 1 and 2 as a block. That includes our checklist as well as a donation of books for the Riverview School Library from Mr. Alex Morano from Simon & Schuster with the approximate value of $1,000.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Mr. Cass, operations, if you will.
Under operations, there is nothing tonight on the agenda for transportation. Item 2, building and grounds, we have several things to move. 2.1, I'm asking the board to approve the attached quote from Triplex Industries Incorporated for demolition work, including removing and disposing all structures from the property located at 46 Nicole Drive in the amount of $42,750, pending Department of Education approval, paid from maintenance reserve. 2.2 is to approve the attached quote from Site Remediation Group LLC to prepare a Phase 1 environmental site assessment for the site located at 46 Nicole Drive, Denville, New Jersey, in the amount of $3,500, also paid from maintenance reserve. Item 2.3 is to approve to publish the advertisement to solicit bids for the toilet project at Riverview School, paid out of capital reserve funds. Item 2.4 is to approve the attached quote from City Disposal to dispose of all chemicals in the amount of $2,688.50 to be paid from maintenance reserve. 2.5 is to approve the attached proposal from Statistical Forecasting LLC for an updated demographic study at a cost of $31,600, utilizing capital reserve funds. 2.6 is to approve the attached security documents. One is a memorandum of agreement with the Denville Police Department and Denville Board of Education. Item 2 is memorandum of understanding for sharing video access with the Denville Police Department and the Denville Board of Education. 2.7 is to approve the following required maintenance reserve expenditures for the Riverview and Valley View School with the amount listed below, utilizing maintenance reserve funds. Replace the blow-down valves, defective low water fuel cutoff, control head, and necessary fittings on all 3 boilers at Riverview Elementary School, $8,815. Annual boiler inspection at Valley View Middle School, $4,400. Last one is to remove and replace circulator pump on the hot water heater boiler room and replace sewage ejector pump stand and lid at Riverview Elementary School, $4,566.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Just a quick question. Does anyone know, because I don't recall, for the demographic study, how long that typically took from the time we sort of hire them to completion?
It'll take a few months. We're probably looking at maybe March, getting it back, something like that.
And the demographic study would go 2 years, right? That was what we had discussed before. For additional 2 years from now.
He does it 5 years.
2 years from the previous study.
The last one was 2021.
Correct.
So this one's
we
going to be
ended up
2025.
2026.
So it'll be 2025 to 2030.
Oh, okay.
It'll be 5 years.
Go
Yeah.
all the way out to
He's not.
2030.
We're not doing like an update. We're doing a whole new
Whole
one.
full
Yeah, yeah.
study. Okay.
Cost was the same. He
Oh,
wasn't
really?
really
Okay.
because it's a couple years out. He needs all to do the whole thing. That was the story with him.
Okay. Great.
I did add in the redistricting part. We didn't do that the last time, but I think it's important to have that now, considering all the as a possibility if we need to find a location in the town that makes sense to make the cutoff,
Yeah.
something like that. Right now it's working, but since we have 2 developments that have to really go to Lakeview that we don't have kids from yet, we need to think about that.
Cliff and I were talking about it. There would be additional construction that'll be coming up in the next 2-3 years. If that is so, the impact of that will be sort of adjusted because there is no way to assess it right now, right? So would Dr. Grip then update it at some point to
So the last one we did, some of the things were still conceptual, so they're not included in the report. So if the state comes out, or I guess we're getting our COA numbers, I don't know, it's in court, right? So let's say it takes 2 years for that to play out in the courts. And then by the time that's out there and the time that builders start like coming and saying, I want to build something, I would think it's a few years away, probably when this thing expires.
Just knowing our COA number doesn't get us anything on the demographic study until they have an actual development. They can say, this is what the bedroom count is, this is the unit numbers, I think, and also whether it's a rent or purchase. So all of that kind of goes into the formula and then kicks it out. So I don't think, as far as I've heard, I haven't heard anything about development, actual like a development for anything for the next round of COA that I've heard of.
Yeah, and what I remember is that when we first hired Dr. Grip, a lot of the buildings were hypothetical. There were no permits yet from what Dr. Forte was able to dig up, but now that buildings are basically up now and finishing off, his demographic study is going to include all the developments. At that time, there was only 4 developments, I believe, and now there might be 6 or 7 developments. So whatever was hypothetical 3 years ago will be concrete. And what he's going to then project is future hypothetical COA developments. And that's, yeah, it's just going to be that next level. Does that summarize it? Well,
Yeah, I don't think he'll be including much in the next round of COA. He'll be really finishing up this round.
Before that.
That's just using what I think, but I could be wrong. But going by what he did the last time, the only things that he included in the study were things that were already past the planning board. That they didn't necessarily have to have permits yet, but they had to be past the planning board. So there were a couple that weren't past the planning board, like the one by the train station. That wasn't in it. The train station, the Denville train station, not the other one. The other one was in it because it was past the planning board stage.
Thank you.
The other thing is as we get, one of the difficulties I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, was Dr. Grip stating that like Berkshire Hills and the Forges, which were the 2 most recent high density home developments in Denville, had drastically different student yields. So I think as we get more data on the current developments, will give us a better idea what these developments are going to yield, because it's really hard when you look at the 2 of them. They're drastically different, and I don't know the reason behind it. The Forges is newer, so does that mean you can come up with 7 different theories? So as we get more data out of the current developments and what the yields are, I think we're going to get a better idea of what the future could hold too.
Hey, Steve, when we interviewed Dr. Grip the first time around, we asked him a bunch of these questions. Is that something that we could do as well before he gets started, or are we pretty much set on what we want and he's just, once we approve this, he's going to start?
So it's a good question. I was torn as to whether or not to put this on the agenda today. I know that the board was pretty supportive of it, it seemed like, but I really was thinking, Damaris and I were talking, should we put it on in December and just talk about it now? But then by the time in December, then you got Christmas and all that. I figured he wouldn't even get started until January. So that's why I did it the way I did it. But I'm totally okay with us putting it off until December if we still want to talk about it. It's totally fine. But if we want to move on it, that's fine too. So to get to your other question about whether or not we can interview him, or like, I'm sure he would be fine with doing whatever. Like if we want to have him, maybe I'm sure there's a fee for it, but he might hop on a call or something with the finance committee, something like that. Maybe there's not even a fee for that. I'm not sure if it's just a short call.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's a no-brainer to vote on it today. I just would like to see if there's ways that if we wanted to include something like, a nuance, because I thought he did garner a lot of information from the questions that he got from the board. So, and I think that helped steer how he was going to do his study and present it to us.
So maybe I can ask him about going to the finance committee meeting, just hop on a call for 10 minutes or something. Does that sound?
I would almost think of it more as like a prep call as opposed to an interview. Cause I mean, I agree with Mr. Kim. I'm all supportive. I think generally speaking, it sounds like the board is on voting on this and moving forward, but it does make sense if there's no cost to just kind of get him on a call. If not, then let's put it in an email and just shoot it to him in an email on some thoughts. That way he has some little background on kind of, some details.
Okay. I'll see if I can set up him to get on the finance committee call. So
say if any board members have any comments for that, send it over to me. I'm happy to put it down on a list so we can make sure we keep it on track.
Great, thank you. Any more questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Abunajitasan,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay, we are at the part of the agenda for the good of the cause, committee reports, correspondence, discussion items, which includes board meeting highlights and classroom space considerations and anything else. So,
I took it upon myself to get a estimate of what a $60 million referendum would be. I picked that number not really for any major reason, just because you can use it and you could cut it in half. It gives you an idea. You could cut it in fourth, make it 25%. So whatever the numbers are, I asked her that. It's very good estimate if you wanted to say a $30 million one. But I felt like we're talking a lot about it, right? It's coming up if we're going to do it, and I wanted you guys to see what the impact is to the taxpayer and all the other details. Did anybody see it and have a question about any of it? I know we talked about it in finance ops, but I think it's important. Just if anybody does want to have a question about it.
As I mentioned at the Finance and Building and Grounds Committee meeting, it was a great idea and very helpful. Obviously, over time, the interest rates will change somewhat. And we're getting another demographic study done, so because it's just very, very difficult to pinpoint exactly what type of expansion we're going to need to house the additional students. And as we get closer to that, we'd perhaps want to do the same thing for a $30 million or whatever an expansion at one of the schools would cost also. I think it's really important information to have, especially when you start pitching this to the public. And I went through this, when I first joined the board, when they pitched a new middle school, and the transparency and the data and the facts were certainly lacking to get the public behind the project. And this board is doing a much better job. No disrespect to the elders I started with, but 30 million or whatever it is, we probably should do the same thing so the taxpayers can see what the bite's going to be on their quarterly bill.
Steve, I have no questions. Thank you for getting this ready for us. So,
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware, maybe I wasn't clear. If you split it in half, like if you say it's $30 million, you just take all the numbers and cut them in half. It's pretty close to being accurate, according to our consultant.
and that's so in this example, the $581.99, that's per year, right? Per household.
Right, for 20 years per household at the average household of 409,344.
Thank you.
And if there's no other comments about finance ops, I wouldn't mind bringing up something from IMP, which is the anxious generation. Dr. Cullis and myself, we've talked about this a little bit. It's kind of taken off in the country. It's a bestseller, and our colleagues at Morris Hills Regional have read it already. I listened to it. That's my new thing now. I like to listen to books, but I like it. It's pretty cool. And we bought 20-ish copies, and we've sent them out to our staff, to administrative team, to counselors, people like that. What we would like to do, we're not really asking for permission for this. It's not really a board approval thing, but I really want the board involved in it is the point. I've already talked to the chief of police. I've talked to the mayor. I'm going to talk to St. Clair's. I'm going to talk to the library. We'll talk to Morris Hills Regional, maybe VOTEC, and do like a community book study on this book. The reason why, and I'll just give you a little synopsis of it. The book starts out talking about all the problems associated with social media and phone-based childhoods and things like that. but it evolves toward the end on some pretty common sense things that you could do. Like, you know how some problems are just so big, there's no solutions. Well, he points out a couple pretty, how about this, maybe doable solutions that might work, right? If you could get enough people on board to make an impact in the kids' lives. So what we would like to do is in the new year, get this off the ground. I'd love the board to be involved in this. I'd like to talk about it at every board meeting, just have, a conversation about the book, talk about it with our colleagues, have probably a hybrid, maybe some in-person discussions about it, some virtual, whatever. I mean, when we talked about virtual, I was like, why? We're going to use technology to talk about why you shouldn't use technology, but we want to engage as many people as possible. So if we can, we figured we would do like both. We have a couple of volunteers that are interested in kind of running it that aren't even staff members, people in the community. I think that's even better. Get some of them more involved in it than, Steve Forte. There's another Steve Forte thing, or Sandy Cullis. It's coming from them. I think it might be more helpful. So again, I'm still want to work on getting other people involved, like the library. The mayor said he's in, the chief of police said he's in, and I'm hoping the board would be in on it, and our staff will be in on it. And that's all I really have right now, but I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about it if anybody has questions. I know Dr. Moore and I spoke a little bit about it as well, just because of his background too. I felt like he would be a great source of information. And I know you already bought the book too.
I have hard copies upstairs. If anyone wants it at the end of the meeting, just let me know and I'll grab them before, if you want to take it home with you in hard copy.
Thank you for that. Have you considered maybe even reaching out to the author, Mr. Haight, and is he doing presentations or any kind of visits to schools?
He is doing it, but it's a real big seller, so it's a real high fee. I know he's a professor at NYU. I mean, we could ask and see, but I don't know. I don't want it to get so like impossible that we can't do it. So I'm really
Sure.
I really want to make
Start
sure
small,
we do
yeah.
it, and that could be like an icing on the cake thing later.
Yeah.
And for those of you who aren't really aware of it, it's really in a nutshell about Generation Z growing up in what he says is a phone-based society, a phone-based childhood compared to a play-based childhood. It's really impacting Gen Z. So that's what he's taught. He's really focusing on the kids that grew up with a phone from the time they were in fourth grade or third grade-ish. And now they're like, my son's 20, right? And he grew up in that social media kind of system, all that. And he talks about how mental health has deteriorated in kids of Gen Z. And he's attributing it to social media and the phone. Now I know if you really use science, right, you can't come to a conclusion because nothing else is the reason. You can't say, well, then it's this, but it makes a lot of sense. If you start listening to it and reading it or reading it, he just makes a lot of really good observations. And really, I don't think anybody really thinks that the kids that are that young really should be on it. I mean, the kids, it says they should be 13, right? But kids that are, 9, 8 are on it. His thing is he would love to see social media and phones not start until after middle school. Like he loves 16, but he says, 9th grade, even something like that. So, I mean, it's kind of like a doable goal, maybe, if you could get to a certain tipping point, you get enough people involved in trying to do this kind of thing. So,
Yeah, if you get to a point where, to invite him, I mean, it'll be like $100,000, but we can have several districts, especially if it grows to be bigger and other districts feel the same way that we feel. I think that's possible.
Thank you. Fantastic topic. I'm eager to read this. I might have to get the audiobook as well. So, but thank you for bringing this up.
should we do a resolution just to show the board's support of it in December? Like maybe it's not really, there's not really anything to do other than it's like a ceremonial kind of thing, but It's good, right? We could do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Put some kind of resolution together for December and say that, the board supports a community-wide book study of the anxious generation. Put a couple other words in there. I'll send it to you first before I do it.
Yeah, just to add, the public library, if you're a member, you can download the book, you can electronically borrow the book, the public library has it.
You sure they have it too? You looked?
I have, I have access to it. I don't know if I had looked at the Nashville one and this one, but yes, the book was there. It was somebody's already borrowed it.
So there's only like one electric version. I got you.
Correct. There is limited, even electronic versions, there are limited copies. Correct. They have both audiobook and the Kindle version.
Okay, that's good. I really wanted them involved in it too, because we do some things with them, and this would be a great thing for them to do with us.
Does any other board member have anything else they'd like to share?
I just want to, good of the cause, thank the PTA, the principals, the administrators for the Veterans Day celebrations. I was able to go this year to Riverview. I had not been able to in the past, and they put on a lovely performance. The students were great. The principal and vice principal, excellent speeches throughout. It really is great to see the community come together and to allow, the veterans to come into the school to see not only their students, but all the children in the community. So I just want to thank them. Riverview, I wasn't able to go to Valley View, but I heard good things from my children. So thank you again to everyone for all those Veterans Day celebrations.
And Mike did it too, which was nice. He was able to speak at Valley View, made some really good comments. I thought it was a good group up there, and it was nice to see somebody who was another person who said he would have been drafted, right? So it was kind of a different take because it was during Vietnam. But I thought that one was really nice too. And I was lucky enough to have my son who came up because he was off on Veterans Day, and he was able to go to the Riverview one, which was a nice treat for me. And it was good for I think the people to see a fairly recent graduate of the school too.
Okay.
Well, I just, last meeting, the IMP was tasked with deciding about the space considerations policy, and myself and Dr. Aruna Jatasan went on a school tour of Lakeview with Dr. Cullis just to get a feel of the different classrooms, and we decided we'd kind of table discussion for our next meeting and kind of talk about it then. So when Mr. Capella is there as well, we'll kind of just share our impressions and continue to sort of hack away at it a bit.
Yeah, there was one question that I had with regards to that, and I've been giving it some thought. Is would there be value in starting off with reducing the class sizes for kindergarten and maybe first grade, being that that's when they're most impressionable, and I feel like that's when it's most important to see growth and in their learning and stuff like that, which will help them down the line, right? Because if they're not falling behind there, then they can keep up with all the other levels as they go through the grades. So if during committee the conversation, ask that question, if that question could be asked, and if there's any benefit to it as well.
Yeah, we'll keep that in consideration, and I think there's a lot of different perspectives to kind of look at with it. So thank you for that. Absolutely. The only other thing I have is for the Lakeview PTA. Their talent show is going to be on March 1st, and registration is already open. They're looking to get going there. It's going to be open till the beginning of December, so it's 11:15 to 12:02. And the only other thing is that the Peace Plaza is accepting any kind of donations, pallets and old wood. They'll accept too. They can reclaim that and make use of that. So just so people know.
Okay, great. Don, did you have anything you want to?
Yeah, I just mentioned on the kindergarten class size, which is, it's the entry level, so it's very, very important. Doubles in the details. So, what does the New Jersey Department of Education recommend those class sizes should be, and maybe even the federal government would recommend? And also, do all our current kindergarten classes have an aide in there? Or is just the teacher by themselves with the kindergarten kids? So I think some of the, some real specific information would help us understand what would the correct number would be, and then also what our numbers are today, and if we have to make any adjustments.
The document that you guys always vote on every year, if you look at the September tab, I put some information about that, Don, in there. You could take a look at the at some of that info. And if you want me to go over it with you, I'm good with that too.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and open it up for public discussion at 8:11 p.m. 8:11 p.m., okay. If there's anyone online that would like to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll get you situated. Okay, seeing no one online raising their hand, looking to make a comment, we'll go ahead and close public comments at 8:12 p.m. There is a need for executive session, so Dr. Moore, if you could take us into executive session, please.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we convene an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss negotiations, legal, security, and personnel issues. Minutes of this session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Okay, for the public, we will be adjourning after the executive session is over, so there will be no voting, so we will end the public section at this point. Executive session is now open at 8:13 p.m.